MS1, Block 2, Unit 5, Organizational Context of Decisions. This unit is designed to help you from a clear idea of the various terms and concepts of mission, objectives, strategy, policy, programs, and procedures which will help you understand the management of organizations. In this unit, we'll seek answers to questions such as why is an organization created? What is the purpose? How best can it achieve that purpose? What methods and means will it employ to achieve the purpose? 5.1 Mission. The mission is very reason and justification for the existence of a firm. Mission is always defined in terms of the benefits of the firm provide to its customers and not in terms of any physical dimensions of the firm or its products. A firm exists and functions only in relation to the customer who needs it satisfies. If there were no customer, there would be no firm. Thus, the starting point for defining the mission of any business is its customer. Since the customer exists outside the business, the mission must be defined from the outside. The firm must ask the question, what is our business and what should it be? But seek the answer from the customer's viewpoint. The important thing is to identify that not so obvious but the perceived benefit or value which the customer is actually seeking when buying the product. Correct identification of the real benefit of value to the customer will help the firm to answer the question, what is our business? A retail outlet may view its business as merely selling ready-made garments, but the customers buying these garments may in reality be buying convenience, high fashion, status, or any other value they perceive in the garments. Further, mission is always concerned with the future. What should our business be? The mission should be so described that it remains valid for at least some years to come. Sometimes the mission may be so intelligently described, anticipating future opportunities so well, that its concept may remain valid for even as long as 15 to 20 years. Drucker gives the classic example of the American telephone and telegraph company, which in 1890 defined its mission as our business is service. The definition stood the company in good stead right up to late 1960s, spanning almost 70 years. However, long a definition of mission may remain valid without any change, it must be remarked that the concept of mission is dynamic and not static. It must change over time with changes occurring in the environment. These may relate to changes in technology, social structure, latest fashion, etc. A firm which wants to grow and ensure its future must keep pace and with these environmental changes and, if need be, accordingly change its definition of business. But the critical factor which the firm must remember is that its future is determined by the way it's defined its business today. There can be many descriptions of the business mission and there is no one right or correct answers. A firm has to make a choice as to how it wants to define that its business is. Making a choice is never easy. It involves examining and evaluating the various alternatives available and finally choosing that which is consistent with top management perception about the benefits they are providing to the customer today and their aspiration for the future. Thus, the mission has to seek a balance between the present and the future and avoid being defined too narrowly or too broadly. Too narrow a definition will present a firm from availing many new and profitable opportunities that may come its way. A firm involved in distributing films for screening in cinema theaters had defined its business as seeking to fulfill the entertainment needs of the customer through distributing films to theaters for exhibiting to actual customer. With the increasing popularity of videos and subsequent decreases in earning from theaters, this firm was soon faced the prospect of dwindling business. On the other hand, if the firm has defined its business as fulfilling the entertainment needs through distributing means of audio cum visual entertainment, it could have undertaken the distribution of video films along with the film and continued to grow. The key words are entertainment, the specific need of the customer that the firm is seeking to fulfill, and audio cum visual, describing the type of entertainment. Suppose this same firm had instead defined its business as distributing means of entertainment, what would be the outcome? The field which the firm had identified is far too the meaningfully able to concentrate on any workable opportunity. Consider that books, magazine, record, music cassettes also constitute means of entertainment. For any people, both indoor and outdoor games are a way of entertainment. Should this firm then include hockey sticks, badminton rackets, footballs, and chess boards also? The scope of a firm business flow from its definition of mission but is described in more specific rather than generic terms. Scope refers to the choice of the specific products and markets in which a firm wishes to operate. The definition of product market scope has a direct bearing on the subsequent decisions regarding choice of objectives and strategy. A shipping company may describe its mission as fulfilling the transportation needs of its customer. It may, if it so chooses, further quality the scope by defining whether the transportation is meant for goods, cargo, or passengers. 5.2 Objectives. Once the mission and scope of a firm has been defined by the top management, the next logical step is to translate them into action. This can be done by breaking down the business mission into smaller, workable objectives for the managers down the line. These objectives relate to the long run and are described as open-ended attributes described in terms of maximizing or optimizing or minimizing rather than it in any specific quantitative terms which a firm seeks to fulfill in pursuance of its mission. Objectives reflect the action oriented and mission which in contrast is expressed in relatively abstract terms. Objectives form the basis of work and provide a yardstick for measuring performance. A firm can have a number of objectives. Sometimes there may be a conflict between objectives, such as between the objective of profit and sales growth. To overcome this, the firm has to set priorities. It must decide which objective is more important and first seek to fulfill that before pursuing the second. Objectives must be set for different levels for the corporate levels, business level, divisional level, and individual level. Obviously, objectives set for one level will not be identical with those set of another level, but they must certainly be compatible with each other and seek the fulfillment of the firm's mission. While setting objectives, it is important to leave room for the expected, the unforeseen occurrence which can prevent achievement of objectives. To the extent that it is not possible to plan for such events. Objectives are at best only statement of expected and not actual outcomes. There is much difference of opinion amongst management thinkers on the role of profit in a firm. Some view profit as the only reason for a firm's existence. On the other hand, many thinkers, notable among them Peter F. Drucker, are of the opinion that profit is not the rationale for a firm's existence, but rather the test of its validity and performance. Drucker's reasoning is that profit is a vitally integral part and need of business activity, and there can be no long-term business without profit. Only that firm which makes sufficient profit has the mean of survival. The firm which cannot generate profit has an endangered future. Thus, to survive and grow, a firm must generate profits. In certain government and public sectors undertaking, profit is sometimes ignored and the emphasis is laid on providing an essential service at a subsidized rate. Most transport corporations providing bus and train facilities within a city usually run at a loss. Similarly, power and electricity are supplied to individual customers at highly subsidized rates. Through, in some cases, it may be important to relegate profits to the back seat. There is every reason to provide the maximum service at the minimum cost. Whatever be the mission of the organization and criteria of decision making, there is no justification for tolerating commercial inefficiency. 5.3 Goals. Goals are derived from the objectives and are intermediate time-bound targets which are necessary for the achievement of objectives. Goals are expressed in very specific quantitative or qualitative terms. All goals have four components. First, derived from the objective which seeks to fulfill. Second, an index or standard for measuring progress and performance. Third, a target or hurdle to be achieved. And fourth, a time limit within which has to be achieved. Thus, goals are time bound and work oriented, and they are important because they provide a path for converting plans into individual tasks and action and for motivating people. Some samples of typical business goals are shown in figure 1. Some typical business goals. First, percentage market share by product and or market. Percentage increase in sales and or an absolute sales figure. Third, minimum number of units to be produced per worker per hour, per day, per week, per machine, per factory. Fourth, maximum number of rejects per hour of machine operation. Fifth, maximum number of man-day lost in strikes, go slow and other industrial conflicts. Sixth, maximum contribution percentage per branch per unit of production. Seventh, cost reduction target. Eighth, a time limit which certain events must occur. Example, a new machine to be installed. To obtain optimal performance, the objective and goals of the firm must be A. Consistent with the achievement of the mission. B. Balance between the requirement of the present and the future. C. Balanced against each other and priorities established wherever there is scope for conflict. And D is consistent with the firm's resources and the market opportunities. Let us look at the concept of objective and goals with the help of the following illustration. One of the objectives of the sixth 5-year plans was to create maximum employment opportunities. Some of the goals towards fulfillment of this objective related to: first, specific amount per year to be disturbed as loan to unemployment graduates for starting enterprises. Second, number of training programs per year for teaching vocational skill to uneducated employed. And third is number of new industrial training institutes and polytechnics to be opened in each state and the time limit within which these must be established, etc. 5.4 Strategy. Having set objectives, the firm now has to work to achieve them. The specific path of action chosen by the firm to achieve its objective is referred to as its strategy. It is the fundamental means to a firm uses to try and achieve its objectives. Any strategy thus defined has the following components. First, a product or market scope, the specific product and market in which a firm operates and which define its limit of activity. Second, growth factor, the changes the firm plans to make in its product market scope for ensuring its future growth. Third, competitive advantage, those specific properties of individual product or market that gives the firm its unique position via a vis-a-vis its competitors. Distinctive competence, the specific organizational strength of a firm which help in achieving its objectives. Fifth, synergy, the overall or joint effect that are sought from the firm's various product or market scopes. Thus, strategy seeks to achieve the firm's objective in the context of a specific product or market scope with a future orientation based on its internal strength and the unique market position that it enjoys. As an illustration, let us review the strategy of a medium-sized company involved in manufacturing and marketing electronic entertainment products. In terms of product or market scope, the company has restricted itself to marketing of television sets in the northern and eastern region of the country. In terms of future areas of growth, the company's R&D division is involved in designing video cassettes, players and personal computers to be marketed in either northern or east region markets. The company has involved a competitive advantage in terms of an excellent after sales service not easily matched by any of its close competitors. Most of the key personnel in marketing and sales have been deployed in such a way that they contribute their maximum in various regions with high degree of autonomy and constitute the company's distinctive competence. By seeking entry in the video cassette players and personal computers in the future, the company would be using its existing distribution network, thus creating marketing synergy. 5.5 Process of strategy formulation. Strategy is concerned with choosing from the various alternatives open to it that path which will best help the firm achieve its objectives. There are specific steps involved in the process of strategy formulation. These are: first, external internal analysis. This analysis helps identify the really meaningful opportunities and threats which can affect the firms in the light of its own strengths and weaknesses. Generate strategy alternatives. The next step is to generate all the possible strategies alternative which can fulfill the objectives. One way of generating an analysis strategy alternatives is presented in figure. Refer to the book. These are 4 strategies available here. A. Current products in current markets. Strategies which help improve the firm's position in this area should be the first concern of the firm before moving into new, unknown and often risky areas. All those strategies which aim to increase brand share and increase profitability of existing operations should be implemented. B. New products in current market. The firm is already incurring costs of marketing, distributing, and sales operations. Adding on new products is thus a logical way of getting benefit of economy of scale and cutting overhead costs. Third, C. Current products in new market. Firms' experience in a specific market would come in handy when it wants to launch the same product in new markets. New markets may be defined in terms of geographical area or new customer segments. And fourth, D is new products for new market. This is by far the most risky strategy alternatives which a firm can choose, and it involves high risk. Diversification is the strategy alternative. Here the third point of process of strategy formulation is evaluating the strategy alternatives. All the strategy alternatives identified in step 2 may lead to achievement of objective, but not all may be realistic or feasible. The firm has to evaluate them in the context of its own aspiration, internal strength and weakness, and the environmental opportunities and threats, and short list of all possible strategies for consideration. Fourth, choice of strategy. The selection of one strategy that best satisfies the objectives of the firm. 5.6 Policies. So far, we have discussed the concept of mission, objective, and strategy in the context of a firm. Now we shall turn our attention to policies, programs, and procedures. Before we get into a detailed discussion, it would be helpful if we differentiate these two sets of concepts on the basis of their distinguishing characteristics. Mission, objectives, and strategy are mainly the concern of top management, while policies, programs, and procedures are concerned primarily with the middle and operating management level. While formulation of the mission is an exclusively top management function, the formulation of secondary objective and strategy may imply some involvement of the middle management too. The time horizon for mission, objectives, and strategy is long term, and their formulations have far reaching consequences affecting the very survival and growth of the firm. On the other hand, policies, programs, and procedures have a shorter time horizon, are easier to change without much adverse impact, and do not have a very critical bearing on the firm. The formulation of mission, objectives, and strategy implies interaction with the environment, and their concern is with improving the effectiveness of the firm. Effectiveness being defined as the degree to which actual outputs of the firm correspond to its desired output. Its concern is with doing the right things right in the context of interrelationship between the firm and its environment. On the other hand, policies, programs, and procedures affect the internal structure and operational activities of the firm. Their concern is with improving the efficiency of the firm. Efficiency being defined as the ratio of actual outputs to actual inputs. Its concern is with doing things in a right manner. Once the firm has set its objective and desired an appropriate strategy to meet these objectives, it has to gear up its internal operation to provide all the backup support and input in the most efficient manner. Setting objectives and farming strategies require decisions to be made only once in a while, but many other operations involve frequent, often periodic decision making. To facilitate such recurrent decision making, a firm may lay down guidelines. Such guidelines are known as policies. Policies may pertain to each the internal operations of the firm or to those decisions which have to be taken internally but vitally affect the implementation of the strategy and achievement of objective. A policy for the write of damaged stock affect only the internal operations of the firm. A policy and credit terms to its dealers is decided internally but affect the firm's ability to attract and retain the desirable type of number of dealers, thus impinging on the effective implementation of its marketing strategy. To ensure that policies acts as an aid and not an obstacle in the implementation of strategy, it is important that they be derived from the design of the strategy itself. 5.7 Farming policies. In a one-man enterprise, there is no need for having any policies since the entrepreneur is both the thinker and a doer. But in physical expansion, increased complexity of tasks and emerge of various level of decision makers, the need to have well thought out and clearly specified policy becomes imperative. While forming the policies, the top management must take into account the following considerations. First, while objective setting the strategy design are outwards directed, they involve active interaction with the environment. Policies, programs, and procedures are more inwards directed. Their concern is how best to utilize the available resources in achievement of the mission, while the former is concerned with finding the right match between the environment and the firm's objectives. The latter concern is to provide the right infrastructure support to achieve the stated objectives. Second, policies must involve from past experience, fact, and participation of people who are going to be affected by them. Third, policies must change in the characteristics of the operations or decisions which they are meant to govern and change in the environment. Fourth, policies must be flexible enough to allow for the exceptional situations which may call for unconventional or exceptional solutions. Fifth, policies are best implemented only when they are fully accepted by the people responsible for their implementation. The best way of ensuring acceptance is to involve the concerned people in the process of framing policies, and too many policies governing every aspect of decision making would only retard the achievement of the objectives. Instead of acting as an aid, policies may become an obstacles. 5.8 Importance of policies. Policies are an important tools for management for ensuring the smooth running of the firm's day-to-day activities. Policies are needed to ensure consistency of individual decisions taken by different branches and departments. Amongst different departments or within the same department, specific decisions are recurrent, but the situation in which the decision has to be taken may be different in each case. Therefore, the need for policies which provide for a set of common parameters and criteria for decision making in different situations. Next is, policies are needed to ensure compatibility of individual decisions with the mission and strategies. Policies are needed to ensure consistency of decisions over time. Policies are needed to facilitate delegation of work and authority, and policies are needed to avoid ad hoc and arbitrary decisions. 5.9 Types of policies. Policies are framed in accordance with the nature of the strategy being pursued. Detailed policies may be framed for each functional area or depending on the relative importance of the different areas. They may be framed for only certain areas. Some example policies in various functional areas are described in figure 3rd. Elaboration of the figure 3rd is marketing. First, percentage markup allowed to retailers on manufacturer's price. Second, parameters for selection and appointment of distributors and dealers. Third, types of promotion to be undertaken by branch offices or subsidiaries. Finance. First, norms for expenditure limits on different activities. Second, treatment of bad debts. Personal. First, minimum educational qualifications and experience required for recruitment at different levels. Second, recruitment of women. Production and purchase. First, make or buy decisions for non critical low value components. Second, selection of vendors. Third, minimum quality standards of raw material to be purchased. Fourth, mode and terms of payment to suppliers. 5.10 Programs. Fun Fizz company manufactured and markets a popular carbonated drink Fiji, which is bottled at a continuous production plant. In a 4 peak months of summer, the plant is run 24 hours every day of the week. To prevent against breakdown, policy on maintenance has been laid down, which states that in the summer each machine and each section of the plant must be subject to preventive maintenance once every fortnight, but 1/4 of the unusual output level must be maintained. Thus, each fortnight an elaborate exercise has to be undertaken. The dealers selling Fizzy have to be informed to buy more stock and also keep with them the empties for that day, since the delivery van would not be visiting them. Within the plant, the time involved in cleaning each machine and section has to be calculated, keeping in mind the tolerable limits of raw material that can wait at each workstation without being spoilt, and the minimum production level that has to be maintained. This entire exercise of preparation involving certain steps to be taken is known as program. ABC company was faced in the problem that none of the marketing executive and sales representative they recruited would stay with them for more than 6 to 8 months. Investigation revealed that the executives felt very frustrated that through there was a specific policy or promotions, there was no way of reviewing and evaluating the performance of individuals, as a result of which promotions were made for personal rather than professional reasons. To overcome this, management drew up a plan for evaluating individual performance. This involved collecting, confirming, reviewing, and evaluating feedback on the individual's performance to take a decision about their future progress in the company. This exercise involves carrying and certain actions within a specific time and to be repeated every year. Since it is a repetitive exercise, it is important to find the most efficient way of doing it rather than experimenting each year with a new approach. The most efficient way you would involve listing of steps and the sequence in which these steps have to be taken to complete the entire work which constitutes a program. The concern of programs is to organize and schedule repetitive activities which constitute a complete set of work assignment in the most efficient manner. Programs relate to activities rather than decisions. They may help in making strategic decisions but are not concerned directly with operating decisions. The factor which characterizes a program is that all the activities involved constitute a complete work set. A program must be derived from the policy which it seeks to help. 5.11 Procedures. Programs relate to scheduling of activities while procedures refer to the specific method and sequence by which an activity has to be performed. A company initiates a program of firefighting at its factory premises. This program consists of activities such as evacuating the premises, using the fire extinguishing equipment, transmitting information to the fire station, etc. Within each activity, the steps to be taken are the procedures. For instance, in the matter of evacuating the building, the procedure may specify that a peoples on the second floor will be the first to leave, followed by those on the first floor, and so on. It may specify which doors or staircases are to be used. To go back to the case of Fiji, policy on general maintenance of the plant has been specified. The programs for carrying out and coordinating the various activities that constitute a maintenance has been evolved. Procedures refer to the subsequential steps by which each section or machine of the plant will be dismantled, cleaned, serviced, and put back into operation. The way of calculating depreciation by a firm is an accounting procedure. The manner in which a company has to file information for its claim for compensation from the insurance company for goods lost in transit constitutes a procedure. A branch office of a public sector company has to follow a certain procedure for requesting for extra salesmen during the peak season. Procedures are meant to aid the implementation of a program by ensuring that each activity is fully completed and within the shortest possible time. Procedures should involve from knowledge of past experience and facts. Procedures should be as precise as possible, and procedures should have the concurrence of the people who have to use them. The idea of following procedure is to avoid disorderly and arbitrary way of doing those tasks which are essential to the operations of the firm. To be really useful, procedures should be laid down for only those activities which are critical to the overall plan of strategy, policy, and programs. Having too many procedures can hamper the working style of individual, while their total absence would lead to chaos. Generally, government organizations, public sector companies, and bureaucratic setup have more procedures in every area of activities than private sector's companies. Procedures are what we usually refer to as red tapeism in government. Often all of us at one fire or the other has experienced the futility of having too many procedures while getting our ration card, renewal of driving license, or payment of road tax, etc. Thus, to be useful, procedures must be laid down in critical activities areas. Procedures must serve a specific purpose. Procedures must facilitate achievement of the program or output toward which it is geared. Procedure must follow a certain logical processes, and procedure must be balanced in terms of being too many or too few. 5.12 Summary. In this unit, we have identified the importance area of decision making in an organization. Further, we analyzed the interrelations and interlinkage between the areas. The mission of the organization provides the starting point from which objectives, goals, strategies, policies, programs, and procedures are derived in a subsequent manner. This subsequential process is a logical one as it provides the framework for decision making At each level